Revolution, everybody. This is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. I'm coming to you with a few minutes of truth, and hopefully I can be just a few minutes. I just want to offer up for you just a quick commentary on this black preachers meeting at the White House. First of all, little context. The black preachers have been meeting at the White House for a long time. For many years, in many different circumstances. We understand that, Martin Luther King met with Lyndon Johnson and was able to get the Civil Rights Act and the Voter Rights Act through his meetings there. But recently, as it relates to Donald Trump, there's been a core group of black preachers that had been meeting or have been scheduling these meetings with the president. And a couple of thoughts. And I'm just going to give these thoughts, and then you can go about your day or your evening or whenever you watch this video, because I'm not going to be before you that long. If you look in scripture, when it comes to prophets or men of God meeting with leadership, meeting with kings and other leaders, typically when they go, they're not going there to celebrate the true men of God. We're going there to celebrate the so-called king. That's the first thing that I noticed when it comes to Daryl Scott's statement of that Donald Trump is the most pro-black president in our history. See, a lot of black folk are having problems, and excuse me, to my white folk who are subscribers, thank you. But on this conversation really in this video really isn't for you. You might want to, if you want to, you can stick around, but yeah, this isn't for you. This is family talk for a second. See, the situation that we have for these preachers having these conversations with the president and having these sit downs with the president is the fact that we see issues with a divided culture. If you don't notice what I'm wearing right now, wearing a t-shirt. Okay, I'm getting into these political type t-shirts a little bit, but if you see this t-shirt, this is basically a funny rendering of Permit Patty. And we've seen a lot of these situations where, black families and black folk are getting the police called on them just because they just exist in white spaces, lack of term, white spaces. And there's a lot of racial tension in this country. Now, what these black pastors fail to do is use this opportunity to actually be a pastor, to actually be a man of God. For instance, David had an affair in scripture, the King David had an affair with Uriah's wife. Uriah's wife ends up pregnant. Then David took Uriah and had him murdered at the front of the line. Now, under this administration and these times, if their social media would have been available and everything like that, it would have been a big scandal. But Nathan told David about himself. And David, fortunately for him, he repented. Okay? There's other stories. One of my favorite, though, was King Ahab got with King Jehoshaphat, and this is in this I think is either First Kings or Second Kings, and you know, and it's also listed in Chronicles. This is one of my favorite ones, where Ahab was looking for a word from the Lord to go into battle. Right? Now, here's the funny thing. Just like these black preachers, all of Ahab's men said go into battle. But then Jehoshaphat was like, well, I want to know what's going on, what's really going on. And he's like, so did all the prophets come to you? And he said, nah. Ahab told him, no, not all the prophets came to me. There's this one prophet that's out there in the yonder. His name is Micaiah. Micaiah, let me get this way. See, Micaiah was the cat that's like, and Ahab said, listen, Micaiah never has a good word for me. Never. Never says anything positive towards me. To me, Ahab sounds like Trump. Trump gets so mad when people criticize him. He's so upset when people criticize him. So now you're sitting in a meeting where Daryl Scott is basically speaking like the other prophets that were speaking positive and good to the king. But nobody, including John Gray, who's out around now on the circuit, sitting up here talking about, I didn't know there were cameras. I didn't know that this was all a photo op, John. Stop your lying. Stop your trepid talking like you didn't want to go, but I got to sit at the table because God want me there. Man, please. We ain't got time for your bull. We know the moment, and I'm going to get back to the story, but John Gray, let me tell you something. The moment you got that invitation, we know that you were going. You want to know why we knew you were going? Because you got a white congregation to please. You just got this new white church, this new shiny new white church, and you got to sit up there and please them white folk so that they can sit up there and keep you in charge, because that's they king. So you got to go sit at their king's feet so that you can sit up there and come back to your congregation. We know the game, brother. We know the game. So come on, stop going on Don Lemon talking about, I see the problems and all this other stuff, and you know, but I had to go. My wife told me I had to go. No, stop all that whining, man. Come on. We knew you were going. You knew you were going the moment that you got that invitation, and the reason why you got that invitation is because you are a head of a white church. Y'all need to come up off that mess. We got you. All right, let's get back to the story. So Ahab relented and summoned for Micaiah. So now Micaiah comes to the forum, and there's all the other prophets, Jehoshaphat, Ahab, they all there chilling, wait for Micaiah. Micaiah gets up, and they ask him, what did the Lord say to you? And this is where I get into my little spiel about lying spirits, but we'll talk about it in this context. Micaiah said, you know what? See, the Lord was sitting in the middle of his meeting, and, you know, in the middle of his host and everything like that. And, you know, he's like talking about with the folk about, let's see what's going on with this Ahab dude. And he saw that a spirit came to the forefront and said, listen, why don't you make me a lying spirit so that I can go down there and deceive his prophets to convince him to go into battle. And the Lord was like, cool. So now Micaiah says this in the open with all these other prophets there. So basically he called all those other prophets liars and false prophets. Now, granted, you got to understand this. You got to understand this context of this. When Micaiah accused the other prophets of being liars and false prophets, remember, Being a false prophet back in those days was a sentence of death. If you were found out to be a false prophet, they killed you. If you were found out to be a medium, they killed you. So don't fool yourself. That's a serious allegation that Micaiah said to those prophets. And guess what? One of the prophets stood up and smacked the ish out of him. It's in the scripture, y'all. I kid you not. Smacked him right there in his face because he called him a liar. Now the story goes on that Micaiah decides to go into battle. And as a result of the battle, he ended up getting killed. Pretty gruesomely, by the way. But he ends up dying. He ends up being killed. So what am I saying in all this? There was an opportunity for these pastors, any of them. There was an opportunity for them to address real black issues. Now they're talking about prison reform, but here's the thing about that. There's always going to be a commission on prison reform, just like there's always going to be a commission on whatever. But until you affect the money profit, the money motive and the profit motive of the prison industrial complex, you're not going to have prison reform. Listen, there's way too much money being made on these private prisons for the Trump administration to give up on that. So this was a bunch of bull. Politically, it was bull. But yet y'all want to sit up here. They want to sit up here talking about, oh, we're going to get prison reform. No. Speaking truth to power. Real reform. Why is Jeff Sessions going around, disbanding, police councils on shooting unarmed black folk? That's a real issue that you can deal with. Why are you not dealing with, attacks to social programs that affect the people in your congregation? Why won't you deal with health care that people in your congregation deal with on a regular basis? There are so many issues that affect the black community, that affect the whole of not only just America, but the whole of black community, where he's sitting up there talking about jobs and stuff like that. Even if there were these numbers of jobs, the jobs numbers are always misleading. Just trust me on that. They may be lower, but for instance, within the black community, we always talk about the unemployment rate. Now they're talking about the unemployment rate for black folk being low, but they never talk about the black folk who left the job search market, because that's only the numbers that you hear. They left the job search market and they began to find something else, do something else, and figure something else out. But those numbers you'll never hear of. So whatever they're talking about, let it be. But you had a chance to sit up there and to confront a man on how can you sit up here and say that you are our leader and that you are, but morally you are so corrupt. Right now, the man is sitting up here, have 2 porn stars sitting up there that he paid money to. And to be honest with you, there's a third porn star that I believe that they paid $1.2 million to have an abortion, but they blamed it on somebody else. I believe that's also Trump's dude. That's also Trump's chick too. But they just didn't come out with that one yet. They trying to sit on that one. But when it comes out, trust me, they trying to get, see, there's all these games that's being played. And the preachers that were sitting there at the table had the chance to be the moral compass for this nation. And none of them stood up. You want to know why none of them stood up? It's because Trump brought in the right preachers. He brought in the right ones that will not stand up. All those men that were in that room, they can be considered themselves pastors, but really, I like what a friend of mine just said. They nothing but goat herders. And if you get that reference, it's hilarious. But they're all cowards. Given a chance to stand up for what is right, for what is true, in an instance when you got that opportunity, John Gray, you should have took it. Marvin Winans Jr., you should have took it. Well, Darrell Scott, we know you're so far up his ass. We already know you're far gone. You know. By the way, can you pay your rent on time, brother? I know you getting your I know that your tithes is getting low. That's why you're missing on your rent payments. But please, come on. Let's get real about this. The other pastors that were in the room, you had an opportunity, you failed. Not only did you fail you failed your congregations, you failed black people in general. This is the outrage that many in the black community is looking at you for, because you had an opportunity to actually speak truth to power, but you cowered. You cowered, and you just spoke and had a love fest for the president. This is the truth. This is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Revolution.